Hey everyone, you're watching Ash on Comics. My name's Ash. Here's today's comic, The Unexpected. Number 5. Still only $2.99, cheap. Well, that's probably more than comics even should be, but compared to what they actually are, it's a good price. It's got a nice little metallic cover here, foil, that's reflecting the ceiling lights. Pretty cool. Looks better in person, I think, than it does on camera, but it's neat. Didn't cost any extra. I kind of appreciate when they do that. Remember the old days when in the 90s and they would do like these covers and then charge you like an extra $2 or something stupid. Alright, so let's get into it. Like, Unexpected, if you've been following my reviews or been reading the comics yourselves, you kind of know this is a challenging read. Orlando, let's see, here's the credits down here. I'm pretty sure Ronan Cliquette, is that his name? He's the new artist. That's right. I hate when they do that. He might actually be doing some of the plotting, though. Because I think Steve Orlando's moving on to other projects. So, yeah. Anyways, Hawkman appears in this episode, this issue. And this is pretty cool. I have just started picking up Hawkman. I got the first 4 issues. I haven't read them yet. I'm going to read them probably next. Looking forward to checking them out. I've always thought this character was just stupid. But I'm prejudiced. I'm a DC prejudiced. I think I've talked about this. So if you don't know, I got into DC Comics only this year. I've known about DC Comics for many, many years. But my knowledge of them is limited to essentially Frank Miller Batman issues. And the movies and TV and stuff like that, and just kind of what I followed on the outside, being in comics, so I was a huge Marvel fanboy. I just never liked what I saw, the cover. I never liked the cover, if you will. If you look at DC as a book, I judged them by the cover. I just thought their characters were silly, and yeah. So now that Marvel is basically a huge dumpster fire. It's basically Fukushima right now to the comic book industry. It's just blasting out radioactive material into the Pacific and destroying the planet, and no one seems to care. So DC is sort of a safe haven. I say that loosely because they have their own problems, but in comparison, they are not nearly the problem that Marvel is. And I've been really enjoying DC. I've been really enjoying being a newbie. I know a lot of you, if you follow me and you know DC, like you guys are like, I've been reading DC for 20 years or whatever. I look like a noob, and I don't hide that fact. But please take that as sort of a benefit of a perspective that I am coming in cold to a lot of these characters. I'm not coming in, I admit that my prejudice, but my prejudice is based on ignorance. I'm not coming in with bias. I'm not coming in with, well, back in my day they did this way with this character and da-da-da. I'm just coming in fresh on how the characters are now without knowing what the differences are and, and things like that. No baggage. So Hawkman shows up and he's, got Firebrand and Neon. What are you doing? You're trespassing here. This place is sacred to me. They're obviously looking for him, I believe, if I remember right. It's hard to remember. This book is so, I don't want to say it's so convoluted, but it's just not straightforward. If you've watched Trajan videos, he kind of, actually I did my video on Trajan's article, and he kind of slammed this book. He did not like it because of how wordy it was and how over complex it seemed to be. Trajan, if you're watching this book actually gets rid of that. I think Steve Orlando's leaving, and I think that the book now is sort of reaching the end of its first arc. A lot of that style is going away in favor of more straightforward comic book writing. And I would like to see you, in particular, read this book and see if you agree. This is a much more straightforward adventure. So Hawkman is, confronting them, saying, what are you doing here? And they're talking about, we got the nth metal, we need your help, blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, it reacts with his mace. We find out, at least I find out, his mace is nth metal, which I thought was pretty cool. And then we get to see this guy. who several issues ago, I think it was after the first issue actually, I was like, oh, he was at the end of the first page. And I was like, this guy looks badass. I think the other artist, I'm trying to remember his name. It starts with a C. I forget his name. Drew him better. But I just love the menacing look. And I was like, who is this? And then I wrongly assumed that this guy was one of those hawk creatures in the next issue. And was like, that's lame. But now that we see the actual size comparison, we can see that this guy's a giant. And he's some villain of Hawkman. And Hawkman is kind of scared of him. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Now, the nth metal is causing reactions in both of them because each of them have their own nth metal. So there's the special isotope that we've been dealing with. And so these guys get in a fight. And because, we always have to have an excuse for heroes fighting heroes in 2018. But it's fine. So they get in a fight, and they're going through, and Neon's trying to stop him and talk sense into him. Of course, there is no talking sense into him. And so he finally uses his power to change rage, what he says, change rage into hope, and kind of knocks some sense into them. I'm not actually quite clear on what he did here. Maybe you can read and get the details. But it's enough to know that he altered essentially the characteristics of what was influencing them. So he changed that influence, that rage influence, to a hope influence, which brought them back to their senses. They're able to talk, and it looks wordy. If you just look at that and go, oh, that's a lot of words. But, it's things that are explaining the story, and I was very appreciative of that, to know kind of what's going on. And Hawkman's getting filled in. Hawkman's kind of like us, in that sense that he's used as the tool for us to learn something. And so now we find out that this castle is actually Castle Frankenstein. And Hawkman used to be an apprentice for Dr. Frankenstein, or one of his many lives of Hawkman. I don't know, is that a new thing? Someone can answer that in the comments. The whole Hawkman living through different lives and being reincarnated, Carter Hall thing. Is that? I get the kind of sense that that's kind of a new thing that was kind of inserted later. It's kind of like Doctor Who didn't start off having multiple bodies. Then later on, we're going to explain all these different actors as actually different people, or the different hosts of the same person. So Hawkman's talking about Lord Sin. Hawkman's like, I know Lord Sin. He explains, he's one of the seven devils, blah, blah, blah. And basically find out that, that this guy's real deadly, and basically had conquered Hawkman before. So Hawkman's got some sort of PTSD dealing with this guy. Then we go to Lord Sin himself after, as a kind of a segue. And you see his old right hand fade. He's done with her, steals her soul, turns it just into mindless flesh to do his bidding. Creates this big dragon monster, because, dragon monsters look cool in comics. He's riding the back, a la Muad'Dib, if you get that reference. And now Hawkman is enraged because, you bring this thing to here, blah, blah, blah. And Hawkman is not trusting him because he saw the World Forge too, and Hawkman was enslaved by it, and it took him all this, tremendous effort and time to overcome and get us back his sanity. He doesn't understand how Neon is okay, and Neon's like, look, I didn't have the same problem as you because I just accepted it and submitted. So he says, I can help you, Hawkman. We can get past this. And they go inside the castle to the laboratory. And since Hawkman was once Frankenstein's greatest assistant, he knows how to use all the different tools and stuff. And they use the equipment in here to, analyze the piece. They find out that it's psychoactive. It's not just not radioactive. It's psychoactive, So that's why it can mess with people's minds. And he's talking about how it's full of hate and all this stuff. And they said, well, why is that? And then Neon goes off to say, well, we Alden quenched the bad Samaritan. It's full of hate and everything. So they're trying to get to the bottom of it. Then we get to Mandrake. And we kind of saw hints from him earlier. And so he's kind of like making an appearance. I think this is just kind of building up this is sort of a foreshadow, I think. It's just like, oh, don't forget this bad guy that we introduced earlier, in the first issue. So back to real time. All of a sudden, the castle starts collapsing, or not collapsing, but everything is getting sucked upwards and everything. It's because Sin has arrived, and we get this nice big shot. If you notice, this is the old glossy paper that has been used for a while, so it really reflects the lights above. I like the new flat matte paper that DC's been doing. I hope they do it to all their books. But I'm not going to complain as long as this is $2.99. And this is a pretty cool shot. They're fighting, and Sin is just like, haha, I got you guys. And he's doing his normal super villain, just talking trash. And he sucks the life out of Firebrand. You're just like, what the F? And then we got Neon saying, not this time, it can't be. And this, you feel, I'm not doing it justice by just kind of talking you through the events, but you get this feeling of like, oh shit, this is going down. And this is the last page here, and you see Neon, you might have stolen Firebrand's soul, but I'm taking it back. And meanwhile, Sin's like, haha, I'm taking you too. And big cliffhanger because he's obviously got a plan, he feels like, but he's now getting sucked in, and his soul, he will be consumed by Sin as well. And we're left next, the soul of Sin. So that's it. And we get a preview of Green Lantern in case you needed that. All right. Oh, cool. Foil back, too. I didn't even realize that. DC supervillains. Interesting. So, The Unexpected. I'm still enjoying this book. Carrie Nord is the artist I was thinking of before. I don't like this artist as much as Carrie Nord, but it's fine. I don't think this book was never... You were never picking this book up for the art, I don't think, anyway. The Unexpected is a fun book. I mean, I've talked about this a lot. Trajan made some points about it, that it can be tough read. I feel like this is a book that if you invest in and you put the time to maybe stop and go back and read the panels that were confusing, I know that's definitely not a good critique. The book shouldn't do that, but I believe if you do, this book actually gives back to you. I think this is what I enjoy about this book, is that it's just not super simple and straightforward and easy. There's tons of books that are, and you can go read those, and there's nothing wrong with liking them. I like those books too, but I don't like everything to be the same. So I'm enjoying that this book is unpredictable. It's unexpected. I mean, look, they killed the first two characters in the first issue. There's 4 characters. They killed them in the first issue. We're on issue 5, and there's no hint of them coming. I thought, like, oh, they'll just bring them back. And it's like, nope. It's really these two, and now she's dead. And so this book is kind of going in directions that I just can't predict. I'm thinking, oh, by the way, here are the 4 characters. You keep assuming they're going to come back because they keep saying, look, here these guys are. But are they coming back? I don't know. And the fact that I don't actually know is entertaining. And it keeps me wanting to know what's going to happen further in the story, and it keeps me as a subscriber. I keep buying this book every week. $2.99. You can't really go wrong. Not the best, not the worst. Give it a thumbs up. Recommend. And if you like it, if you pick it up because of me or whatever, hashtag move the needle. Follow me on Twitter, Ash1138. Put comments down. I like to hear it. If you think this book is utter gutter trash, I guess you can tell me that too. Anyways, hope you like this review. Got some insight about the book to see if it's something you should read or not. The trade should probably be out soon here because the next issue will probably wrap up the arc. So if you're not, you can do it that way. Thanks for watching, and tomorrow's New Comic Book Day, so have another video then. Bye.